Greetings to all my 10th grade children. I am here for the history class for the unit 1. I welcome you all to this e-learning platform. Today we are going to see the topic on Russian Revolution and its impact. So the last class we saw how the impact was created in the World War. Now this time today's topic we are going to see about the Russian Revolution. And Russian Revolution was the biggest outcome of the war. It was a great revolution that created a great change in the history of the World War. So let's see what are the topics that comes under the causes of the revolution. So the first one is the biggest outcome of war, Russian Revolution that took place in 1970, and the leader was Lenin. He was the communist government in Russia. Now the topics are social causes, role of revolutionaries, autocracy of the Tsar, opposition to Tsar in Dissolution of Duma, popular uprising, abdication of Tsar, provisional government, failure of provisional government, takeover by the Bolshevik party under Lenin, outcome of the revolution, global influence of the Russian Revolution. Now let's go to the first topic. The first topic is social causes. You can see the Tsar Alexander in the picture. Yes, he was a great leader in that Russian land, but he was not so strong. You can see here Russia, Peter the Great, Catherine, they were the rulers at that time. They tried to bring out westernization in the country, in the land of Russia. So what is happening is, all of a sudden, without a basement, without a proper foundation for the westernization or bringing a proper social changes in the country, they suddenly started to bring out the westernization that created a greater harm to the society called peasant society. That is a lower grade of people like farmers, daily laborers, workers. They were really affected by this westernization. So they were the main key of the revolution. Because of their revolt, the revolution started. So let's see how they were affected all through the Russian in today's topic. Peasants were serfs. Serfs in the sense they were taken like a slave. In the feudal system, they have to work for the wealthy owners, and they will be paid according to their interest. That means according to the interest of their owner. So sometimes they may be paid very low. So that created a great harm for the peasants, and their livelihood were really affected. So that created this revolution. So peasants were served, lands tied, they were given certain lands, and certain lands were under the control of these wealthy owners also. After Russia's defeat in the Crimean War, Russia was actually thinking of getting or annexing Manchuria in the Japan. Okay, and that Japan was having a war with the Russia. Russia was automatically defeated in that war, and finally Russia had so many losses that created anger by the peasants. Peasants were revolting against it. So let's see. In the Crimean War, after Russia was defeated, certain reforms were brought by Tsar Alexander, and that Tsar Alexander actually was doing a better thing, that is, he abolished serfdom and he gave peasants enough lands, but they were not properly treated. So these peasants became the powder keg for the revolution. Actually, they were the ammunition, like the fuel for the revolution, like that, these peasants. The next one is role of revolutionaries. After this time period, various ideologies came up. They were popping out in this time period. They were Marxist philosophy and the Democratic Labour Party. There were many parties were started, many revolutionary ideas were started in order to benefit the lower, that is these peasants, labor parties, workers. So they were starting like this, and one among the leader was Lenin. Lenin was a well-known leader, and you can see here the picture of the Lenin here, Vladimir Lenin. And he was a socialist. Actually, socialist students were really thinking how their community were affected, and they started seeding or bringing up, promoting the ideas of socialism in the common people like peasants. And what they did is, through these philosophies like Marxist philosophy, Democratic Labour Party, they started creating or they started fighting against terrorism. So what is happening is, Lenin believed in the system of mass action in the sense revolution, creating a lot number of people for one single cause. So if they fight in that manner, they will surely able to achieve their goal, is the belief of Lenin, and he started teaching them, that is the socialist students and the peasants in this time period. So what is happening is they started having a revolutionary in each and every area. The next topic you can see, autocracy of the Tsar. The word autocracy itself shows that Tsar was Tsar was actually a ruler who actually he actually abolished serfdom and gave the peasants their properties and the lands. But Tsar actually was not a very good efficient leader in the sense. So Tsar Nicholas II, that was Tsar Alexander the First. Now the Tsar Nicholas II was not so efficient, and what he is doing is, he is an inexperienced, he's been explained as inexperienced ruler, and he was under the influence of his wife Tsarina Alexandra. So she was the main person who was dominating Tsar Nicholas II, and Tsar Nicholas II was not able to bring out proper reforms for the people, for the common people. This really violated the peasants. And Russian expansion in Manchuria. Here you can see in Manchuria, that I said in the first slide, that was here in Manchuria, the war with Japan. So they had a war with Japan, and in Japan, Russia was defeated, and what is happening is, priest Gapon led march for agrarian industrial reforms. On this day, hundreds of people were killed, and this day was called as Bloody Sunday. Okay, so uncle of Tsar was killed, and here what they are doing is they are creating a parliament called Duma. A parliament called Duma. It was held under the leadership of Tsar, but Duma was often reformed in the parliament. Left wing formed Soviet Council of Workers delegates. So the ruler side they had Duma, and the opposite side they had Soviet Council of Workers, a council, a conference like thing, and they were having. So whatever is being announced here, they will be fighting against here in the Soviet Council, and they will be assessing it as whether it is a proper reform for the, or beneficial reform for the peasants. Like that they will be doing in the Soviet Council of Workers here. So in the next thing, opposition to Tsar and dissolution of Duma. I said the parliament was created under the leadership of Tsar, was called as the Duma. This Duma was not so efficient like the leader, so often this Duma had dissolution. That means they'll be keep on changing the leaders, they'll be keep on having elections and all. So Russia allied with France and Britain. This we saw in the first part of the initial part of the lesson, that who are the central powers, who are the allies, like that. So Russia allied with France and Britain. Nicholas made himself as commander-in-chief because he was not believing many of his ministers. He was mistrusting them because he was under the domination of his wife Alexandra, as Tsar gave more importance to flatterers in his court, in his palace. So he was not listening to the good ministers, what they advised him. So automatically he himself made or announced as commander-in-chief, and what people is doing is, Rasputin murdered a member of Tsar family, people from the revolutionary part, from the revolting people. One of the person called Rasputin came and murdered the member of the Tsar family, and finally what is happening is, Duma, I already said in the first thing, dissolution of Duma. That is, whenever they have a wrong or unsatisfied reforms were brought out in the Duma, automatically Duma was opposed, and what will happen is, when Duma is opposed, it will be dissoluted, and finally new elections will be held in that times. So often they were having elections, and in the fourth Duma, that is in the fourth dissolution, the Duma was completely came to an end because of the revolution, because finally people were seeing that Duma was not so beneficial to them, or it is not doing any good for them. So they came to an end with the fourth Duma. So Tsar was moved greatly by this, because when the dissolution was happening or the Duma came to an end, Tsar was greatly affected by that. Then the next one is popular uprising. This is a very important thing, and it's a very, in a way, it's a very great thing which created more revolution. That is, as the people and the peasants were working and they were working in the factory, people were not given or provided proper bread and the food for their livelihood. So this created a greater change in the revolution. So 23rd February 1917, socialists were celebrating International Working Women's Day in that time. So what Tsar is doing is, Tsar was feeling himself that he was an unchallengeable person or an unchallengeable ruler. No one can stand against him. But what he is doing, he is not bringing a proper reforms or proper solutions for the problems for the people. So there was a shortage of bread at that time, and what is doing is, these women community, their men are in the army, and what they did is they created a revolt, and they came together and they stood against the government, and they started a strike at Petrograd in the capital of Russia. The key words are: bread for workers, come out, stop the work. If you want the bread for your work, bread for your family or bread for you, you just stop your work and come out and revolt with us. Only then you will be benefited. Like that, they were raising their voice, and for 4 lakh people, that is 4 lakh workers, were joining next day in the Soviet Union. The next one is abdication of Tsar. Abdication in the sense giving up. Tsar, in the previous slide we saw that he was an unchallengeable person, but finally what is happening is, one day government used troops to break these strikes, that is military force to break the strikes. But martial law was very stronger, and Tsar tried to return to Petrograd. From there one day he was traveling in the train, and when he was traveling, some of the workers stopped the train in the railway station, and finally he was made to give up his ruling. Yes, so 15 March Tsar was abdicated. This revolution had already, in the previous class we saw that, impact on India. There was a topic of impact on India. All these revolutions all the western ideas were transferred to the eastern side, especially India also was having a greater impact. In the same way, in this part of the lesson we can see that in India, the Tamil poet called Bharadiyar was writing a short poem on this revolution, and the impact of this revolution you can see in this part of this lesson. The revolutionary Tamil poet Bharadiyar cheerfully welcomed the revolution in Russia by penning these poetic lines. That is, he was the support of the common people, and he was against the ruling party. So the mother great means like Tainadu, like Bharata Mada, like the mother great, the power supreme, turned her glance means her look, beginning towards Russia. She has now it's her graceful time. She is doing something good for the Russia. The revolution of the age, okay, because of a long time period Russia was in a submissive situation, but it has been rising up now. Behold, the wonder rises high, the tyrant howling falls down limp. The shoulders of the heavenly gods are swelling now with joy and pride, eyes hot with unshed tears. The demons here he meant is the ruling party. Perish, O people of the world, behold this mighty change. So he was very happy about the revolution that caused in the Russia, and he was welcoming it through the poetic lines you can understand. And he is in a way, as on behalf of heaven, he is talking on behalf of the heaven, like all the lords and the gods are happy, they are now swelling with joy and pride, like that. So in the worldwide revolution of Russia was really a welcoming one for everyone who has a socialist ideas. The next topic is provisional government. Two parallel bodies, old class Duma and Duma property class workers council influenced by left. Actually, two parallel bodies were there, Bolsheviks and Mensheviks. Bolsheviks were majority people and they were called as Bolsheviks. Mensheviks are minority, people of minority group, like opposite parties or minority. Those are lesser in number and those are lesser in power are called as Mensheviks. Now here that is the two parallel bodies mentioned here, and Soviet dominated by Mensheviks, minority were Bolsheviks. Changed with the arrival of Lenin. This was their idea and their opinion was changed by Lenin. Lenin was coming here and he was bringing some changes. You can see a small brief biography about Lenin. Lenin was born in 1870 near the Middle Volga to educated parents, influenced by the ideas of Karl Marx. Lenin believed that the way for freedom was through mass action. Previous slides we saw that Lenin had a great interest in mass action to achieve his goal. So Lenin spent his time taking classes for study groups of factory workers. So he goes to the working community and the peasants, and he used to teach them and he used to make them study on how the society is being running by the rulers, how they are being affected, everything. He gave a very good idea about how the society is, and that too in which place is St. Petersburg, on Marxism. Marxism, you know, is an ideology. He was arrested in 1895 and kept in Siberia. The Social Democratic Party split on the issue of organization and strategy. Lenin gained the support of a small majority, Bolshinstvo, known as Bolsheviks, which became the Bolshevik party. His opponents in minority, as in Menshevinstvo, were called the Mensheviks. This is the main point. Understand these two people, that is the two parallel bodies are the majority as Bolsheviks and the minority are the Mensheviks. Yes, understand this. And this was changed by the idea of Lenin. Their idea was changed by the idea of Lenin. The next thing is failure of provisional government. Lenin in Switzerland, when revolution broke out, his slogan, all powers to the Soviets. Soviets means working people, and Soviet Union, you know, it's meant for the social common people, that is working laborers. So Lenin brought this key word or the magical word, like all powers to the Soviets and not to the ruling party. People have to assign their rulers, people have to select their leaders, people have to dominate their leaders, like that is his idea. Provisional government, two mistakes. Provisional government had two mistakes. One is they did not give a proper redistribution of the land. Actually, Tsar was removing them from the serf, that slavery, from the feudal lords. But they were not given proper redistribution of the land. So that was the first mistake. And government still continued with the war, that is in the World War. So really, when you are taking part in the World War, your energy like military power, your food, your ammunition, your peace, the land peace, everything will be spoiled. So this made the people more angry, and that wrath of the people made them to revolt against the rulers, against the government. So peasant soldiers joined the land grabbing. What they were doing is they were waiting calmly for the government to take some steps, but nothing was happening there. So finally what they are doing is peasant soldiers were started to grab from the owners, like from the feudal lords. They started grabbing without legal process. So like that they were started grabbing it, and Bolsheviks government banned Pravda. Pravda is a Russian word meaning truth. It was the official newspaper of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union from 1918 to 1991. So that Pravda was banned. It's a newspaper, it was banned, and Bolshevik was arrested, Trotsky was arrested, and Kerensky became prime minister. So there was a small changes in such a situation under the many revolutionaries. Next one, takeover by the Bolshevik party under Lenin's leadership. Lenin persuaded Bolshevik Central Committee on Revolution. Trotsky prepared plan. November 7, key government building seized by revolutionary troops and factory workers. 8th October 1917, new communist government under Lenin started Russian Communist Party. So Lenin is coming up. He is becoming a more stronger revolutionary leader. And what he is doing is he is persuading, he is convincing the common people. And Bolshevik Central Committee which he created was doing the revolution, and Trotsky was preparing a plan. They were against that seizing of the government buildings, everything they were doing. And finally what he is doing is Lenin is starting a new community called Russian Communist Party. So he started a new thing, and you can see the Bolsheviks during the revolution. Yes, already I said Bolsheviks are the majority party and the Mensheviks are the minority party. So Bolsheviks are under revolution, yes, under the guidance of Lenin. Next one, outcome of the revolution. So Russian Communist Party is coming here, eliminated. They targeted in the two area, poverty and illiteracy. Poverty and the illiteracy. They are two demons that kill a country or pull down a country from its growth. So poverty and illiteracy, and they were trying to bring up industry and the agriculture. Industry and the agriculture to create more job vacancies, and many food production should be high. So they are aiming in the industry and the agriculture. Land, social property. Land was a social property to everyone, so that all the laborers can work freely and they can gain from that land. So like that, freely in the sense with the proper income. Okay. Then Lenin appealed for peace, withdrawal from war, Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. To withdraw from this war, the Brest-Litovsk, the treaty was signed, and Lenin was aiming for the peace of the country. So he was trying to make Russia to withdraw from the war. The next one, global influence of the Russian Revolution. Communist parties formed, encourage colonies to fight for freedom. So communist parties, you all know, they are started here and there, they started their work. And finally, they are going to the colonies. They made colonial people, that colonized people, encourage them to fight against the countries who have colonialism. So they were fighting for their freedom. Land reforms were brought, social welfare were brought, workers' rights were brought, and gender equality, like men and women were equal in the sense. You saw in the previous slides that women were fighting against, or they were revolting. So in that way, because of that revolution, gender equality also came for the time being. So many changes were brought due to this revolution, and this revolution was not within the territory of the Russia. It was really spread over to all over the world. Once again, I am happy to meet you all. At this moment, I like to thank our management for giving us such an opportunity, and I would like to thank our alumni who are behind the screen. Thank you. Have a nice day.